I think I'm ready.
Okay, let's do it.
Hello.
Hi.
I am Larry Saperstein, joined, as always, by my incredibly salmon.
Ooh.
Hello, salmon pink.
Mm-hmm.
My bespectacled,
Yes.
lovely partner in crime and life,
I mean, hello.
Jacob freaking Bellotti.
Hello, Larry. How are you?
I am okay.
Great. Well, we're on a show, by the way, and that show is called
Let's talk about that.
All systems are a go.
Talking database activated.
Begin in 3, 2, 1.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what? Let's talk about who? Let's talk about me. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about that.
Girl, I cannot believe we are talking about that.
Wait, what are we talking about?
Let's talk about that.
I was going to do a whole bit being like, we're on a show? There's a show? What's the show?
Oh, sorry.
Well, it's okay. We'll do it next time, and we'll pretend that we didn't just talk about doing it this time.
Yeah, we have plenty of bits that'll get recycled. I don't know. We're kind of building our bit base.
Let's talk about recycling bits.
Yeah, that's kind of the theme of this whole show.
What are we going to talk about today?
Well, let's talk about us.
Let's talk about us. We have a
Okay.
guest coming in today.
We do.
But, before that, we got to talk about us.
Yes. Well, this has been a big week for me. I got invited to RuPaul's Drag Con this past weekend. My old company, of course. My boss, Tom Campbell, there invited me to come. And it was great. It was nice to go back and see everybody and see all the girls,
She's going to her old stomping grounds.
Yes, I got to see Rue and see all my old coworkers and ran into some of the queens that I know. And, it was just kind of a whole thing. I always forget how ridiculously a lot that convention is.
Yeah, what kind of memories did it muck up?
A lot of memories. Particularly seeing that lovely Bring Back My Girl stage, a show, of course, that was created by myself.
Wow. Hey, you know what? The theme of the day is shows created by Jacob Bellotti. Isn't that true? Isn't that true? Woo!
I don't know if we need to celebrate me so much, but yes, today on the pod, we do have a guest from a show that I developed and sold to Netflix.
And that is such a treasure.
Yeah, but we can talk about that in a second. I mean, what's been up with you?
Girl, I feel like I'm crazy energy right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what has been going on, but I don't have coffee very regularly. I don't. But or maybe because I don't have coffee very regularly, I feel like when I do have coffee, I get crazy and I feel crazy. It makes me feel not good physically. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's the caffeine. I feel like I have other caffeinated drinks that don't cause this.
Well, I don't know if any of them are as caffeinated as coffee is.
Is Coca-Cola less caffeinated than coffee, but still has caffeine in it, but just not as much.
Yeah.
I will drink 1/4 of a small latte.
Okay.
And be wired.
Yeah, you might just have to cut out the caffeine, girl.
But sometimes I feel like I really want the caffeine to start my day and feel that extra pep in my step. I had a rehearsal this morning for, my UCB group, and it was, kind of an early rehearsal, and I wanted to go in there with energy and feel spunky and excited and ready to go and ready to be
Instead, you
funny.
walked in there hi.
No, instead I walked in there bouncing off the walls.
Oh, you had your coffee.
I know I had my coffee today, but now I'm feeling the crash effects of it.
Oh, see, well, for the record, full disclosure, I used to drink a lot of coffee. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't know that. Now you don't drink any coffee at all.
I don't do any
completely off
caffeine anymore. Well, because I have an anxiety disorder, now if I drink caffeine, I'm it's like a meltdown. So
Got it.
completely cut out caffeine, but I do know what you mean. And I have the solution for you, honey, and I've introduced it to you already.
What is it?
Vitamin B12, honey.
So, and you're saying vitamin B12 is like I can replace
caffeine with vitamin B12. It's all about energy. All about, I sound so fucking LA saying
energy.
That, don't I?
Energy touch 10. Energy 10. 10 out of 10.
Yes. So, but B12, that's the way to go.
Okay. All right. Well, I had it a couple of times. I did.
Yeah.
But
you need to take it every day. When you take it every day, like
it's like a
you'll be boosted.
What's that word when things like add on to each other and they keep adding and adding and then you see a result? Compounding results.
Hello. I'll give you a compounding.
Oh my gosh. I'll compound you.
Oh! We're getting crazy on the podcast.
It's the coffee.
I'm telling you, every episode now I'm saying this, but it's fucking hot.
I know.
Like, it's summer
we're in the thick
Los
of summer.
Angeles.
We need central air real bad.
My God. All right. Well, today our guest is one of the stars of Owning Manhattan. Now, before we intro him, I'll talk to you a little bit about this show and why it's so special.
Please. I really would like to know.
Yeah. So this was a show I started at World of Wonder in 2021. One of the first projects that came across my desk was this show. And I worked in development there. And this show
for maybe those of you who don't, development means that you were literally developing new shows. You were responsible for creating and selling new shows to television networks.
All new creative coming out of the company. That was our job.
Yeah.
And yes, and then our job would be to pitch those shows to networks and streamers, just buyers, and hopefully sell shows.
Yeah.
And this one was one that started in 2021. Very small team working on it. There were only 3 of us working with Ryan Serhant to develop this when he started his own company, real estate mogul, and he was the star of $1 Million Listing Los Angeles. Or not
New
Los
York.
Angeles, New York.
$1 Million Listing New York.
I know. I was just thinking about how hot it is here. So we were working with him on developing it, and then they finally greenlit it for series in 2022 or 2023. I can't even remember now because it's kind of like a blur of how much it was.
Yeah, happening. I don't know.
But basically, the whole time I was at World of Wonder, I was working on this, and then it was filmed, and then post-production, giving notes and everything.
Yeah.
And the show is now out on Netflix, and it is a hit show.
Yeah, it was one of the top streamed shows like on all streaming services when it first came out. So
and the week after as well, it was in the top 10.
Oh, really?
Too. Yeah, and it's Netflix number 3 in the US. It was in the top 10 globally. So it's really been a hit show that I had a pretty big part in making happen.
Yeah,
which is
so
exciting.
like it's really cool that we're having this guest on to talk a little bit about the show, and we're celebrating this guest, but we're also kind of celebrating you and like the things that you brought to the table, and you've known this person now for a long time, so
I've known him for over 3 years.
Yeah.
I know.
So it's cool to kind of change things up a bit and get someone from the New York realty scene.
I know. This is a fresh new episode for us. So our guest today is the star of Owning Manhattan on Netflix. He is one of the top real estate brokers in New York City. He is an all-around good guy.
Oh, yeah. So nice.
He's a wonderful guy.
And he dresses so well.
He is so well-dressed. So please welcome to the pod, Jordan March, right after this.
Ready, set, Serhant. We had to. I'm sorry.
Usually there's a drum set somewhere.
Yeah. Jordan March, hello, welcome to Let's Talk About That.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
What an honor to have you here. I mean,
we have a TV star.
A true TV star, one of the most watched shows, not just on Netflix, one of the most watched shows in all of streaming television.
That's
and
right.
You are on it, and you are one of the stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
You know, it comes in its own waves of like kind of, awareness and consciousness of really what's happening around us and all the people around the world who are enjoying it, and like getting their little glimpse of our crazy life in Manhattan.
I know. And it's so funny because I have to say to you, because, I have been working on this show for 3 years. So I was there like at the very beginning, and it was funny getting to know you, getting to know Chloe, Jade, Niall, everybody, well before anybody else. And now that like the whole world knows all of you, it's like, it's such a crazy thing, isn't it? How like it just kind of changes suddenly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, whoop, lights on.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, the show is so good.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank you.
we binged it when it came out. And it's like the characters are so good. I mean, characters, you're real people, but in terms of the show, it's it's character driven, and like I think it's so different from the other real estate shows because it's like you get to see so much more of the things you're actually doing, like the real deals and like the real New York competitive market. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the eye candy of seeing the beautiful listings. I mean, how many times did I like lean over and clutch your knee and I was like, that's beautiful. I know. That's gorgeous.
He wants the Brooklyn brownstone.
Oh, I
what he wants.
The Brooklyn brownstone that was featured in like the first episode.
Yeah, the Trisha Lee Brownstone.
Yes. Oh my God, that house was stunning.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
But that's what you see every day, right?
Yeah.
That's your life.
That's my life. Yeah.
So walk me through like being on the show and having that happen and having this come out now. Like, what is it like to watch yourself on TV? Because that's always a big moment for people, the first time they're on TV.
Yeah.
I feel like I was pretty chill about it. Like everyone was like super nervous and everything. I'm like, I'm rolling with it, like it was, it's definitely weird. Like I think one seeing it on your screen, but then seeing it on somebody's screen who's like then like recording their screen and then like posting it on like their Instagram screen.
Yes.
So like I'm watching a screen that's watching another screen. That was, I'm like,
have you, this is just like a thing, but I don't know if they do it on Netflix, but have you looked at like other dubs? Do they do dubs for reality TV shows?
I think
like
so,
language dubs?
What's a dub? Hold on.
Like so if you go and you click like Italian, you would see the show.
Oh, yeah.
But there's like someone doing your voice.
Doing your voice, saying the things you said in Italian. When I started...
Giordano.
When I started on... I was on High School Musical, on the High School Musical the series on Disney+. And so it's Disney, and Disney has like huge, massive standards of like dubbing because they want the shows to be incredibly accessible all over the world.
Yeah.
But it would be so weird to change the language. And that was the first time I was ever on TV. And it'd be so weird to change the language and see like, oh, it's my face and I'm talking, but the voice that's coming out of my mouth is in a totally other language and it's a totally different person.
So nuts.
It's like there's weird things about being on TV. You kind of like lose control of your image in a way.
Right.
Like it's I don't know. It's just a fun story.
Yeah. It was fun seeing you like we got to talk about it. The Chloe rooftop fight moment. I mean, I know you two are good friends, and it was so funny because when we were casting this show, right? Like this was 2021 we started casting, and I think you remember our initial casting interview with you was in 2021, I believe.
Right, wow.
And it's funny seeing the personalities that we like ended up with kind of interact. And right. The Chloe fight came a little out of nowhere for you. Like, what were you thinking when that happened?
It's funny because, there was a part where she said I was yelling, and then I actually thought I was yelling, even though I wasn't. I was like, don't yell. But, yeah, I mean, It's a lot. Like you're fighting in front of
I know.
the camera, which is going in front of the world, and you're like, can we not save this for the
I know.
Right.
And no, it's look, so much happens in a day in business,
Right.
And the days can be super fast paced, and I think it's important. You got to slow down and kind of. I mean, for her, it was like, yeah, I just wanted to kind of know and check in, and totally understandable to have that feeling and thought. And sometimes you're just moving 100 miles an hour where there's multiple deals, there's people, the decision to be made. People have other offers that they're considering, and you just have to kind of go for things and do what feels right. And that is what ultimately spilled into what you're seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
But nah, Chloe's the homie. She's cool. Like, I think I like people who are blunt and honest anyway.
Yeah.
So like I almost prefer to like have that candid chat and like piece it out and be done with it, rather than like things will boil over and there's resentment and there's like all that other stuff. So
Right. And you
shout out to Chloe.
Yeah.
We
do love
Chloe.
We do love
We
Chloe.
love Chloe. She is one of our favorites on that show.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Yeah, but like also feeling like going through the show and everything,
Sure.
what I like about it is that we don't focus like on the drama necessarily. Like, yes, of course there's drama. Like it's,
course.
reality television, but like I like that the deals are real in this show.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things because like selling Sunset, like that's not real. Like they're renting houses in the hills and pretending that they're selling them.
Is that true?
Yeah, that is true.
Oh my gosh.
Like
Is that known information? Are you
yeah,
spilling like industry inside tea?
I don't think so. I think that's like a known thing. But like on this show, like all of the deals you see like are real,
Yeah.
And it's like I feel like that's kind of a special thing about New York, right? Is like you don't really have to fake the deals because so many things are happening every day. Like your life, I imagine must be insane on a day-to-day basis, right? Like you're doing multiple listings a day, calling people, doing
Architects,
tours.
lawyers, attorneys, bankers,
Whoa.
bullshitters.
And,
I mean, but some of the most riveting moments on that show
I can curse,
are
right?
like,
I'm joking.
yeah, of course.
No, yeah, of course. Some of the most riveting moments on that show really are like the deals, the going back and forth between this, the buyer, the seller,
Yeah.
like the calling back and forth with the different offers. Like, is that how it? I mean, they really make it feel so heightened on the show. Is that how it feels in real life?
It probably is even more heightened in real life.
It's like an adrenaline rush, right?
It's an adrenaline rush. So if you got that rush, imagine like what we are feeling when we're like, can I touch my $100,000 check yet?
Yeah.
New Yorkers are by far some of the toughest clients to work with.
Yeah.
They're very, focused on the bottom line, white glove service. They want, and there's competition, right?
Yeah.
Like, the competition's real. Like
Right.
going against Niall or going against Jordan Hurt, Trisha Lee, these are real brokers.
Yeah.
Like really kicking butt out here.
Let me ask. I mean, so I'm not in that world at all, and I think like the show kind of throws you into it a little bit and doesn't fully explain like how the industry works. So I have a couple of clarifying questions on like how does
we are like entertainment
go, yeah.
people.
We're so
We don't know
entertainment,
anything.
but so,
Real
like-
estate 101.
Yeah, like I truly want like real estate 101. So even though, someone like Trisha Lee works at Serhant, you guys are competition because you get paid from the commission.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. Like you can work together, but it's like the agency is kind of hands off in a sense, right? You're not
Exactly.
like you're not being paid a salary from, and that's across the board real estate
across the
how it
board.
works.
Exactly.
Okay.
So and then who like finds the listings? Like you find them, or
Yep.
so it's all you get out of it what you put into it.
Exactly.
And then
Wow.
when so you make a big sale, right? Like someone
Hopefully.
buys a $20 million yeah. So someone buys a $20 million home and it says on the screen Jordan's commission, $300,000 or whatever it was. Does that money like all go to you, or are you now responsible to like split that up amongst your team, or like how much does Serhant as a company take from that money, or are they showing just what your commission is and there's like a larger sum on top of that? Like how does that work like in terms of structure and all that?
Yeah. mean, each brokerage has like their fees that they charge, largely based on like production. Most agents get between 50 to say 75, even depending on the market, even higher.
Okay. 50 to 75
percent of the gross fee.
Okay.
So if you saw
Got it,
100K,
got it.
Kind of everybody has a different deal, but we would be paying Serhant, or the house takes their split, right?
Got it.
And then, if there's agents showing, if there's people helping with board packages, all those people have a percentage, that's a part of a deal. And, as a team, hopefully, we can create an operation that feels very streamlined. And, like I'm out here, I have people helping my buyers today. They're going to get a piece of that commission.
Right.
Average commission in New York is about 6%.
Okay.
Some deals are done around 5%. And then the buyer and the seller typically split it 50-50. Now there's been a big change in the industry actually with the NAR and in New York, where the seller can actually say how much percentages they want to go to the buyer's agent or the seller's agent.
Oh, wow.
So it doesn't have to necessarily be 50-50 anymore, because they may say we want the buyer's agent to get, say, a 2% while I may get a 3 or whatever it is, right?
Got it.
But for the most part, New York, it's a fair market. We split it down the middle. So that's 6%. So a lot of times you're seeing the 3%, like what Serhant's actually taking in.
Right.
And then there's a commission paid to the house and then to the other agents.
Wow.
Got it.
Yeah.
And,
There's
like,
a lot happening there in the
a
deals.
A lot of the deals that we see on the show are like, you guys are the agents of the buyers, right? Because you're like, am I getting that wrong?
Because, for instance, when Chloe came, I was representing the seller. She had the buyer.
Okay.
Right? Brad.
Got it.
And then I had a seller who I was showing that beautiful property on Park Avenue South. And,
Right.
that's a situation where my seller would be paying the 6%.
Right.
She'd get 3. I'd get the other 3. And then she pays Serhant her portion of whatever her splits are. I pay Serhant my portion. And then whatever we're doing with our teams.
So sometimes it really is like agent to agent at Serhant. Sometimes it's
doing the deal.
Agent to agent at another firm, like
Compass, Element, Corcoran.
Yeah.
Right.
So say
Interesting.
you close like a $20 million deal, right?
Yeah.
How long does it take between like, okay, we have a deal to like it's done and you're hands off and you have your check?
So once you submit an offer, you're probably waiting, depending on how big the deal is, like a quick deal, 48 hours to say a week of negotiation.
Okay.
Right? You're doing 2-3 rounds, it's maybe even 4 or 5 rounds of going back and forth of your offers and your terms. Then after the offer is accepted, it then goes into like a due diligence process with the attorney. The attorney is going to get the facts about the house, the building, everything, and you're also holding your home inspection at the same time. So while that deal is being looked at by the attorney, the inspector's coming in, doing a full, scoop of the property, the house, the building, and then they're giving you their notes to see if there's anything that they uncovered that could be defective or needs renovation or whatever it is. Needs to be fixed before closing, or is that something now that you can recalibrate your offer and say, hey, the HVAC systems don't work, I got to replace that. We didn't really get that in that first showing. Our offer is now going to change by $15K, or can you just fix it before we're closing? After that, you're then the seller. I'll give you the full scoop, right? The seller then issues a contract to the buyer's agent. The buyer's agent then gives them notes back once they agree the terms.
Okay.
Wow.
And then if it is all good, the buyer's agent signs. He sends his money in escrow. 10% of the of the purchase price is customary.
Okay.
And then the seller hopefully co-signs.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to.
Right.
Right? Anything goes. Somebody could be still showing that apartment in the meantime.
Right.
Has that
They
happened
could be
to
getting
you?
off. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
With celebrity clients.
Ooh.
Don't want to say the name. Top agents
course.
will like, no, but like, it's blindsiding, right? So you're like kind of fighting to the finish.
Right. Yeah.
So multiple offers can come in. And then when that check is signed, then we have about a 30-day, and it's primarily because the bank has to then do their own due diligence now again.
Okay.
Of understanding, really how the property, property's priced and will they finance it, right? Because then they'll give you what they call like a loan to appraise value, right? So we're ordering the appraisal. They're doing their diligence to say, is this sales price like actually valid for what the market, right? And what our bank, values it at, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then after that, then once they issue the commitment letter, then we can schedule a close. Unless you buy a co-op. Because then you're waiting for the co-op interview.
Right.
I mean,
of course.
my God.
Yeah.
And that's like co-ops are such a New York thing, like such a New York City. I mean, I guess they're everywhere, but like
it's very much a New
such
York
big thing in
ownership
New York
structure.
City.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, this is kind of home ownership 101.
Yeah.
Like, we do have a lot of younger listeners, a lot of like
Sure,
Disney,
yeah.
listeners. So I'm sure this is going to be valuable information that people can.
It's
come back
valuable
to.
for us. I mean, we're like, we've started talking about like maybe at some point in the future, like buying like a condo here,
Sure,
you know, and like that way you're like, everyone says it's better to do that because you're investing in yourself as opposed to just paying a landlord, and throwing away that money
Right.
like every
Absolutely.
month. So this is very good information to know because my God,
there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of steps.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of meltdowns in the middle of that.
I just,
Yeah, totally.
I just wonder, like, so I know you were in the music business and then you got into real estate and we're going to talk all about that, but like, how do you then become someone who sells luxury real estate? Like, how do you make that jump?
Oh yeah, that's an important distinction.
Because there's a lot of brokers in NYC and not a lot of people are selling big multi-million-dollar properties, and you're one of those people. So like, how does that happen?
It's really primarily networking.
Okay.
With the people that have that net worth, that are in that sort of upper echelon, and then one property leads to the other. But really, your knowledge base. People just, I think, want to know how confident are you with that type of product, and do you know obviously where to find the buyer if you're representing the seller, and if you're representing the buyer, again, can you look at a beautiful property? Because again, at $20 million, they're all gorgeous, and say, this one should be $17 million, right? Can you see through all the nuances of how people are pricing things, price, size, location, and then there's ceiling heights and views and common charges if you get into a condo, to be able to sort of make assumptions on pricing, and then you're looking at the days on the market and if it's ever been listed before. So there's a lot of other factors to understand how like viable a property is sitting on the market.
Right.
And so they just want to know, do you know this product enough to now negotiate and not, leave any money on the table, so to speak. Right.
Because I've always wondered about like how things are priced, right? And I guess in the show we do get a little bit of like, oh, well, Jordan Hurt was like, I guess I picked the right price for this on one of the listings. And it's like, well, but then I look at like Jardim and it's like, Chloe didn't pick that price, right? Like the seller picked that price. Like, so how is that like decided?
Yeah. So you really have to reconcile all of these decisions with data. Hopefully you're looking at the comps, what's sold in the market, gives you a sense of where the market is, really in the last 6 months to a year. If it's luxury, you can look a little bit further back, but then you look at different markets. Like right now, higher interest rate market, not as easy as like the comps that I'd look at in like 2022 when everything was like a 4% interest rate market and then like deals were flying.
Okay.
Right.
So we do look at some market conditions, but really, what's sold will give you a sense of, where the market's at. What's also taken off the market now shows you where the market is not willing to bear.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And then even with the competition on the market, we'll get a sense of where the competition is, right? How many listings are out there just like your beautiful, perfect house that is the, one thing in the neighborhood that nobody's seen. Everybody feels that way. But realistically, you have to say, hey, look, and sometimes I literally print it out so people see like how many listings are out. I'm like, this is the competition.
Right.
If we look at the last 3, 4, 6 months, we can get a sense of there's only 5 or 10 listings that move in this neighborhood. There's 100 listings that are out. You need to be part of those 5 that sell. This is how we get you there, right?
Yeah.
So you get a sense of those 3 factors. And then if there's something special, like did they spend a lot of money in renovation that we need to account for, right? Because then maybe we could set a record in the neighborhood because it's really, is there any architectural significance? The Trisha Lee Brownstone.
Yes.
Right? Like, so there are ways to position your story, your product.
Right.
Where now they are, the client really understands the value and is willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took an architectural history of New York City class
really?
my freshman year of college. I went to Pace University downtown New York City, and so it was it's actually so cool. You mentioned the architectural like significance. I loved like seeing the different buildings that were like, for example, the Jordan H one that you're talking about, the Miami. It's like the Miami.
The cast iron
building.
Yeah.
Like, it was so cool to see all of those cool different like architectural things in the different neighborhoods of New York City. Is there an area of New York City that you love selling the most, or like is there a type of building that you're like, these are my favorite, like I love seeing these, or somewhere you like living or something like that?
What's your go-to?
Yeah.
I mean, I love a loft. Cast iron buildings in Soho are beautiful. They have
the
their
Serhant
own
office too is gorgeous.
Yeah, the Serhant. I mean, that whole neighborhood. You walk around, you're like, is this heaven or what?
Yeah.
Those are the buildings I love. I mean, but lofts have their own unique problems. Sometimes the windows are in the front, the bedrooms are in the back with no windows, so it's like a deep loft. So everything has this sort of like kind of flaw. Of course, the Bed-Stuy brownstones are just gorgeous. That's actually some of the most preserved homes in the country.
Yeah.
And there was a huge surge there, years ago where people were like, wow, these brownstones aren't going anywhere, right? And then you have some other architecture where you love the neighborhood, but it's kind of slapped together, and like there's certain eras of architecture that we just like want to forget, right? Like, how did we pick this out? This was like modern and trendy and the hot thing, and now 10 years later when we're selling it, we're like, we did such a bad job here.
Wow.
Whoever the architect was. But a lot of those trends, you'll see 10 years later, like, how did we ever, it's like looking at your old like yearbook pictures, like, what was I thinking when I was confident in this shot that day?
I used to get, I lived in Bed-Stuy for 2 years, and I used to get Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, for those who don't know. And I used to get so upset when you're like walking down and you see like beautiful brownstone, beautiful semi-brownstone, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then like one lot is like that ultra modern, like super skinny, 6 stories.
Like spec house,
yeah. And that's happened a lot in New York over the last, few years. Is that kind of slowing down, or is that still like happening so much, that kind of modernizing?
Tear down. I mean, you'd hope that there would be some like restoration rather than like a full teardown, because people in New York love the character. They love the charm.
Yeah.
But they still want modern elements in bathrooms and kitchens and lighting and, their AC and heating systems.
Yeah.
Radiant heating floors. So there are certain things that you would love to spruce it to give it that modern edge, but we still love beautiful millwork and crown moldings and like, ornate inlays. Like, these are things where those beautiful co-ops now, like, if you see the new dev, even like condos, a lot of the bedrooms are super tiny compared to like the co-ops where like you'd find a room that's 15 by 20 and like you can have a full-on like sofa and office in your actual bedroom, right? So every product has like their own like kind of like benefit, so to speak.
Their own quirks.
Or quirks.
Yeah.
But, a lot of the clients, like, for instance, I do a ton of townhouses, and like sometimes you have developers who will make what they feel is like the beautiful house, but like it can lack the charm, the character, the soul.
Yeah.
Right? And then we have to figure out, how do we bring that in here, because the neighborhood is, giving that, right? Like, those are the properties that are selling. And if you come and just have a product that you feel like this should just perform well in the market because you like it and it's clean and it's nice, sometimes it's missing that little extra.
Yeah.
And that the older unit will sell before your new unit a lot of times, where people say, I need this like raw loft, or I want that old like, carriage house or townhouse or whatever it is, and I'll do my own renovations myself and bring it to life in my own way, rather than just living in a like very sterile type of box.
Well, we saw like in the show even like how important the staging was, and like having everything. I mean, like when we saw what was it, the plaza with George, like
with the cheap furniture,
with the cheap furniture, it just like devalues the place. And so like a lot of your job, I guess, must be like
those hard
finding
conversations.
Finding the people who can really get the job done and making that happen, right?
Sure, yeah. And even all stages are not created equal, right? And some of the like even really top high level stagers, who have tons of recognition and do really well, may not also stage that certain product in the way that would resonate with the client, right? So you have to really create a story really backing into like who's the type of buyer, right? So if it's like downtown and you have like a younger buyer and like they're maybe into art, so they're a little hip, like you can go a little edgy with some of the artwork.
Yeah.
You can have some reds, you can have some pop, where in other neighborhoods like a little bit more of like traditional, people certain times like the Scandinavian design. So you want to get a sense of like all the different design elements, whether it's contemporary, Scandinavian, or modern, or boho, and all these type of things. But it is like a bit of a formula of like knowing your buyer and who's really target, and kind of working your way backward from there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But staging's expensive. Like, I don't think people realize how big those like tickets are. Like, staging for 3 to 6 months in like a regular house could easily be $50,000 to $100,000.
Oh my god!
And does
you're renting
Serhant pays
furniture.
for that? Who pays for that?
No, I mean, typically it's incurred by the seller, but sometimes you're competing on a listing and you're like, well, what do you want to do? You pick up the tab or not? And sometimes we are picking up the tab.
Wow.
$25,000, $50,000, nothing unusual.
It really does seem like this business in particular is one where it's like you have to spend more to earn more. Like the amount of money that was shelled out just like in that one season of that show. I mean, like we're watching it and it's like mind-boggling to us.
Yeah, because like Chloe at the Jardine, like who's paying those swimmers? They're not just volunteering.
Yeah.
Right.
The garden cocktails, like that's a mixologist. That's not a regular
who's
bartender.
paying for the
with like some
philodendron?
Tito's.
Yeah, the philodendron.
You know what I mean? Even the super soakers. Somebody had to go down to Toys R Us. I need the super soakers, boys. The open house is canceled.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But like, this is the job. Like, we're holding open house each week. We do breakfasts. We do luncheons. We, have to, just think creative around like what we're doing. So yeah, there is, there's marketing expenses, all the beautiful Serhant videos you see, the beautiful photography, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like staging, you also got to come in your best suit, right? Like, so there's just expenses that are associated with, being successful in this business. And, as a smart businessman, it's just part of the game. You got to like just budget it really well,
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, I think you take home the best dressed male award on the show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like every time you were on camera, you were in something that was like looked so, elevated and above.
Thank you. That's the goal.
And yeah, and I guess that's really like part of your job, I guess, is looking
Just elevate
great.
everything.
Yeah.
How do I take your shabby, apartment that, sometimes I deal with estate sales. Somebody passed, hasn't renovated, done anything in 40 years, right? And like bring that to life and let someone walk in and feel like this is my home. I could see myself living here.
Yeah.
So that's like the magic that comes, and it's not just putting in an IKEA couch. Nothing wrong with IKEA, but like it's not just putting like your cookie cutter furniture in that feels like it is something that you may feel familiar with, and that's okay. But you really want to connect and make that buyer just have that sense of wow.
Yeah.
Wow factor.
Well, it seems much more complicated than the entertainment
No,
industry.
we do nothing. I mean, okay, more with Jordan March right after this. And we're back with Jordan March. My goodness. So we have a running joke on this podcast about how much Larry talks
Running
about.
joke.
He talks
This is
about
my
New York
life,
at
Jacob.
every opportunity possible on this podcast.
I know. I've
Like,
kind of been in heaven.
we were talking about egg sandwiches in an episode. He's like, "Oh, well, the best in the world is a New
mean-
York egg sandwich."
and we finally have someone here that will agree with me.
I mean, there are a few things that are very New York.
yes.
And an egg and cheese, or bacon, egg and cheese, or sausage, egg and cheese, or whatever egg and cheese.
You're gonna
Thank
say
you.
that's the
Thank you. And it's on a recorded forum, Jacob.
and this is and we're sitting with
being-
like the king of New York
The
here.
king
for the
of New York
record.
is here.
Hey.
I'm just so glad that there's someone here on the podcast that will back me up because this is what I have to deal with every day of my life.
You're like, hush
Yeah.
up, we're in LA now.
Yeah, we're in
Team
Los
LA.
Angeles. We're sitting in Los Angeles right
Yeah.
now. But you are a native New Yorker, right?
One of the few native New Yorkers on the show.
Yeah.
Really?
So where did you grow up in the city?
So I was born in Manhattan,
Okay.
raised in Queens, And then my parents moved to like Westchester, Rockland County. So
Okay.
My
went
dad
from,
grew
like,
up in Rockland County.
Where?
Muncie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to Muncie.
Yeah.
I'm from New City, so like
Oh, cool.
just a town over.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I grew up on Long Island, but my dad was my
know it well.
mom was Long Island, and my dad was up there. Anyway, keep going.
It's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, different sides of New York. One, Queens, Manhattan being New York City, and then, the other like commuter towns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being in New York, like, are you like, do you go to like theater a lot? Do you do all that stuff? Like, are you going to gallery openings? I don't know. Like what are the exclusive fun things that luxury real estate brokers do in their free time in New York City?
Well, half of us are like exhausted, so a good
Sure.
speakeasy,
Sure.
Ooh.
a good jazz night,
Okay.
Okay.
right?
Do you have a favorite jazz club?
Well, I used to live above Mona's, so one of my second apartment in the city was on 14th and B in Alphabet City,
Oh my gosh!
and I lived above a jazz bar.
Okay, so wow, we're really gonna get
This is Larry's favorite thing ever.
My
ever.
mom's like best friend, who I call my uncle, but he's not my biological uncle, but I call him Uncle Vic. He lives on 12th and B, and he owns his apartment. He's owned it since I believe the 80s, and he paid $250 for it.
Wow.
He gave him $250
Wow.
in like 1980 whatever, and still to this day owns. It's a 1-bedroom. It's not teeny tiny, but it's not huge.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what it's worth now. He
Yeah.
paid $250 for it.
Yep, and now it's over $1 million. So.
I know. I do love that area. Like Alphabet
It was a lot
City.
of fun. Yeah.
It's so much character, and it's the setting for Rent. So
Yeah.
Okay.
the musical Rent.
Oh, Rent. Yeah. Oh, okay. The second for, okay, got it. Yeah, I mean, Alphabet City's eclectic. It's got a lot of cool, like, old school, like, New Yorkers, because now we're meeting a lot of people who are from everywhere else, like, New York transplants, and that's still part of the New York dream, but then I miss that old New Yorker with that old New York story about, like, what happened in the 80s or on St. Mark's, and, like, you read some of these books, and, like, it just comes alive, but you don't always get to meet those kind of legends,
Yeah.
So I feel like in East Village, you'll bump to a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, St. Mark's is like one of my favorite places in the city. Did I make you walk through St. Mark's with me when we
Probably.
went? Yeah, it's like the kooky. It's that one street that for some reason is like unreasonably kooky. Like
Oh,
more
yeah.
more
I
kooky
remember.
than everywhere else around
Yeah.
it. kind of.
Yeah.
And it's so sad. It's kind of losing its charm a bit. It used to be like, it used to be so kooky and crazy over there.
Yeah.
And like St. Mark's is like, it's gotten a little bit more tame and modern in the recent
Yeah, it's
years.
coming back though.
Is it really?
These young kids want to bring back the edge for sure.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, but it's
Should we move
mixed.
back
I
to
mean,
New
you
York?
have a lot of students.
What'd you say? Sorry.
No, I mean, you have a lot of students, but they are, the hipsters, the rock
Oh, yeah.
crowd, like, the tattoo parlors are there, and some cool, like, I just the other day was walking in St. Mark's, and one of the bookshops actually was open till 2 a.m. So there's a bookshop that like stays open like its own like little club, I guess, right?
That's
I love
bizarre.
that.
Yeah, and they're like playing like some old like Pink Floyd in there, and you're like,
Wow.
what's going on in here?
Yeah.
And ironically, one of the guys who owns it was kind of like part of the club kids. So
Oh, yeah.
he knows he's all the World of Wonder guys. I
Wait,
know
who
them.
was it?
So there's like a Damien and like another guy named like Wallpaper or like
Oh.
something like this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The
But
only
these
club
are
kid
like-
I
I don't
really
put it
know is
past
James
him.
St. James and RuPaul, but those are the only two
So this
that
is
I know
like
personally.
way like 80s, 90s, like
Yeah.
the real foundation
Yeah.
for like that whole like party monster era.
Yeah.
And then like
Right.
kind of bubbling into like what you're seeing and what you guys are part of. Yeah. So there's if I'll show you the video after, but like,
Oh, sure.
it's like 2 a.m. I'm like, why am I buying books right now? I should be drinking.
I love that. And you must have seen the city change so much,
Yeah.
right? Over the years. Like,
Yeah.
like what is it like now compared to what it was when I guess you were growing up?
Yeah. I mean, growing up in New York back in the day was just, I mean, it was amazing because the music scene was like the 90s music, like in
Yeah.
hip hop, like it was in New York. Now it's, down south. It's kind of running the game a little bit.
Here even. Here even. Like
Here,
in LA,
right?
LA
Kendrick
even.
Lamar, and,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
not like us,
Yeah.
like, We got Toronto and all the other cities, but New York was like the mecca for like hip hop at that time. And like from the 80s to the 90s was like Jay-Z and DMX and The Lox and Method Man and Wu-Tang and all these like Lauryn Hill and like all these like amazing artists.
And now Jay-Z's living in a house in Malibu.
Yeah, he's like where in Brooklyn? I think now people venture out further. Like probably years ago, you probably wouldn't be living in Bed-Stuy. Like
right.
Like because it was not like the most close neighborhood, and like a lot of these neighborhoods, like they just had to go through some gentrification to kind of get in the mindset of like people wanting to feel like they can see themselves there and like having a real good lifestyle with cool restaurants and shops and boutiques and all that stuff. Ridgewood, Bushwick, even South Brooklyn, right? Red Hook, Long Island City. I mean, these places were like destitute, Harlem even like has gone through so much. There were like abandoned buildings. There were buildings that you would see like, why is there a fire like going on in that building? Like, where people would just kind of, what's the word? Like squat,
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like just restoration that New York needed to go through. And I feel between like, really Bloomberg, I feel like really was like huge on that and really like prompting developers to, just incentivizing them to build and grow and so on. And now I find like there's really not a bad neighborhood in New York anymore. Like you could be in Washington Heights, you could be in South Brooklyn, you could be, in Long Island City, Astoria. Like everywhere you turn has like great restaurants, great shops. Like there really isn't like, and I really mean that, people go, where do I live? I go, well, what do you like? Cause like it's all here,
Yeah.
I've seen people move from Chelsea to Washington Heights. I've seen people move from West Village to Bed-Stuy, right? Like, so that wouldn't happen like sort of the old New York per se.
It's less divided.
It's a little tame. Sometimes we're a little over gentrified. We're like, do I need to see a Starbucks and Duane Reade on every single corner?
And I hope that I don't know too much of the history, but I hope that too many people weren't displaced or, had to give up their lives.
I feel like they probably were, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of horror stories. I think tenants now like know their rights.
Yeah.
If they're
especially since COVID, right? I mean, everybody
since
learned.
COVID, yeah, and a lot of the developers will try to like buy them out, like, hey, I'll pay you $1 million to leave. Like,
oof,
that's a real
I'm
thing.
taking that.
Right. Yeah. But then some people go, well, where do I even go? Like, where do you want me to go? And $1 million gets spent quickly too. Like
that's the other thing.
After you do 10 years of rent or 15 years of rent, you're like, did I just spend all this?
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's hard because on the one hand you want the city to be vibrant and diverse and not divided, but on the other hand there's like a lot of sad things that have happened and negative things that have happened in order to get to that place. So I mean, I hope that not to get into it too much, but I feel like
affordability is definitely a big hot topic. I think at the end of the day that's what it comes down to is like can people with like livable wages have like a good sense of quality of life, and it's not always the case, especially like now. So
well, we have like so many friends who live in New York, and we hear like the horror stories of like when they tell us how much they're paying for rent for like a 2-bedroom apartment with their roommate, and and we think about how much we pay here in Los Angeles, and it's like, oh my God, like we think what we pay is high, and then we hear that, and we're like, $4,000 for like a 1-bedroom, I'm like, whoa,
that's
crazy.
It's getting crazier. Like, where does this end, and who's paying for this?
Right.
Stuff?
Where's the cap? But I guess that's why you got to buy.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to buy, you can contact
this is Jordan March. I mean, he's the guy.
We'll get you set up.
Any favorite Broadway shows?
I really liked Hair. Did you ever see Hair when it was on?
Of course. I didn't see... I don't think I caught it. I think I was a little too young for the like most recent revival in like 2010. But I've seen like productions of Hair. I love Hair.
Hair was a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah.
Seen Chicago when Usher was on. That was fun.
Usher was in Chicago? That's funny.
What's the other one? Hamilton was really good. Although I couldn't hear all the raps. I was like, you can't hear everything here, but... I'm with you.
Of course. We love Hamilton. We love Hamilton. What's your favorite again? I can never remember.
My favorite show, my favorite musical of all time is probably A Chorus Line, which is a very niche thing. I mean, it's not everyone's favorite show, but I just love it because it speaks to me personally. It's like, the story of all these dancers coming together and telling their story of why they love to do what they do, and the music is great. And that's weird for me because I love spectacle. Like I love shows that have a lot of spectacle and lights and sparkly costumes and stuff, and that show is not that. But I love it for the story, the messaging.
But I mean, like, besides Broadway, like, what else do people do in New York? Like,
a lot.
What else do people do? What else do people do in the most exciting city in the world?
Los Angeles is very exciting too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like galleries are huge. Like, now Tribeca is like a little arts district. With my team, we're actually gonna try to like do our own little like zoning, like off the record, like of creating a new little area, because there's like the east side of Tribeca, which is like where it's almost like the East Village now, like meets Tribeca, where like there's art parties like every single day, and they're all like clustered on each other, so it feels like cross the street and go to another one, and like go upstairs and there's another one, and like you're meeting like a really cool group of individuals. So I feel like the energy kind of bubbles everywhere. Of course, the restaurant scene is endless.
Yes.
I mean, just like in East Village, it has the most amount of, I think, like cultures and nationalities, cuisines in that one neighborhood than like anywhere else like in the world. Supposedly.
What was that place we went to that I loved? The Polish.
There's a restaurant called Veselka.
Yeah.
It's on,
so Veselka just opened up, like as my next door neighbor, they opened up a
second.
a
really?
second one in Williamsburg.
Oh.
And it's
but
like,
that original Veselka location's like 4 blocks away from your apartment that you were just talking about.
And that was like our 3 a.m. like
yes, pierogies.
3 a.m. pierogies. We're there. 2-hour dinners. We leave at 5.
That's
what the after party was.
Yeah.
And that's something that I miss a lot of times here is like places close. Places close in LA at like 10 p.m.
Except the bars.
The bars, but they close at like 4 a.m. But in New York, places are open literally nonstop. They're open 24/7.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true that there are places in New York that have not stopped selling things, closed their doors in 40 years. Like that is so real.
I mean, we're definitely like the 4 a.m. is like because I feel like LA is more like 2. Right?
2 a.m.
So, sometimes
you're getting some 4s. I mean,
like the WeHo bars stay up until 4.
Okay, that's good because.
Yeah.
Usually, I feel like it was like last call, like 1:30. I was like, I just got here.
Yeah, truly.
Well, yes, yeah. But the gay clubs, that's where it's at here.
Yes, the
in
gays
LA, the WeHo gay clubs.
They never close.
They're open like till 4.
I want to go to some art parties.
I know. I wish we got
like-
invited to those.
Who do we know that can get us invited to
I know
art
a few
parties?
people, like Nikki Haskell could probably.
Well, I was saying Jordan could invite us to some art
Of course.
Oh, yes.
When you come down to New York,
please.
we'll do that. We'll get some cool like street bites.
Yeah.
Or like again, we'll go to these Village. There's a lot of little cheap eats.
Have you gone to this is a new thing in New York that's popping up. What is it? It's like 7th Street Burger or.
Yeah, I think I've had. I feel
like
I had it recently.
It's like a new like super late night like drunk street thing, but like it's like like dollar pizza is so big in New York, right?
Yeah.
But like now there's this like burger chain.
But that's gone now. Like you don't see dollar
that's
pizza.
Gone now.
It's now $5 a slice.
Yep.
It's the new norm.
But the signs still say 99-cent pizza, and then you go and they're like $2 for like a cheese slice. But if you want anything else on it, it's gonna be expensive.
Shout out to Two Brothers. I used to like survive on that. Literally at one point in my career because I had to spend money in the marketing to pay for real estate.
The Two Brothers Pizza on 8th and 43rd or something somewhere over there. 8th and 42nd, 43rd. I used to go there like 3 times a week. Like truly, because there's dance. There's the Broadway Dance Center is like right there, and there's another dance studio.
Shout out to BDC.
Yeah, Ripley Greer is right there. So like on my way back to the train, Two Brothers Pizza all the time.
Yeah. That can save a man.
Yeah.
Larry's just in heaven.
I know. I'm really enjoying talking about New York City.
I have a question then.
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
For you. If you couldn't live in New York, where would you live?
Don't do it to me.
Ooh, that is big. That's
where
a big
would you
question.
live
in the States?
In the
the world.
In anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I've I love Mykonos. I don't know about living, but like, I love Europe as a whole. So
Okay,
like,
yeah.
you pick any of those, I'm probably happy. Like, love Paris. Love Greece.
Mm-hmm.
I spent 6
Marrakesh,
months.
like Morocco.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh,
like
wow.
the architecture, the food, like the pools, this, like
Yeah.
the life is just really, really nice there, and just like the grilled meats and all that good stuff. I think if it was the U.S., L.A., Miami, are
Yeah.
kind of like my jam, but like it's hard to even think about that because like the New York is so unique. Like when I leave New York, and no shade to anywhere else, because like everywhere has its perks, and like I had a beautiful time here in LA, but like when you're home, you're just like, okay, I get why. Like I go through the crazy rents, and the $5 pizza slices, and everything else that I deal with because of just like the group of people. And New Yorkers, they're blunt, but they're humble. Like we don't, like to like wear our money on our sleeve. And there's like the whole like big car, like like Proud Boy kind of thing is like not New York. Like everybody has a place, like everybody belongs. And I love that, like you have that place where you feel like you're still being received and like understood, and I feel like that's cool to see people in like their confidence and be able to thrive in whatever environment that they are. So it feels like something very unique to New York. Just being able to kind of like get on the subway and like get somewhere very quickly, or like bounce to a couple bars, and like not having to like drive, and like the accessibility and the convenience is really great. The late night eats, the 24-hour spots, So this is New York, and just being, in New York, it's like a sense of privilege and even duty.
I mean, I still sometimes can't believe in that I decided to leave and come here. I always say, like, if I was doing literally anything else other than like being a film and television actor, like I would go back in a second, because it's my favorite place in the world, and I've been having such a wonderful time talking about it and feeling very supported, which I don't often feel on this podcast.
Such a liar.
Don't be a victim.
He has the victim complex
when he makes
here.
a problem.
I know. Thank you. Well, Jordan, where can the people find you if they're looking for real estate in New York?
Yes.
How do we hit up Jordan March?
Well, you can find me at jordan@serhant.com. On Instagram, it's Jordan March.
It's Jordan March on Instagram.
And
are you on
do you do
TikTok?
TikTok?
Are you TikToker?
I think TikTok is Jordan_March.
Okay.
Twitter's I'm Jordan March.
Oh my goodness.
So
He's everywhere.
Find me on Netflix. Hey.
Yeah.
That is true. That is true. That people can find you on Netflix.
Not just
Hello.
Netflix, on a hit Netflix show.
On the
Hey.
number one stream show on Netflix.
Yeah, we're hoping for season 2.
Oh,
we
yeah.
are
It's in
excited.
the cards.
Well, you can find us
Yes.
on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Talk About That Pod.
Yeah.
You can find us also on YouTube at Let's Talk About That Pod. And you can email us as well if you have a question, comment, concern, if you want to give us some love, if you want to give Jordan some love.
If you want to give
please.
some sponsorships again,
Exactly.
we're always here for that.
And that is Let's Talk About That at
Let's Talk About That pod at
gmail.com. I'm forgetting our email addresses.
I know.
And Serhant, we love you.
Yes.
Shout out to Rai Rai.
Yes. And we love you, Jordan March. Thank you so much for coming on the
Thanks for having
pod.
me.
I feel like I've grown so much as a person in this hour.
I do feel like an adult now, weirdly.
I've grown into my adulthood in the last 50 minutes, which is, pretty insane. I know what to expect when I'm ready to purchase a home, maybe one day, if that ever happens. And I feel so supported, and that I can share my love of New York.
And we got our agent.
Yes, and we got our agent.
Right. Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
Yes.
It's such a pleasure.
Thank
you so much for being here. This is so much fun.
All right, and we'll see you next week on
Let's Talk About That. Oh,
Bye.
that was great. Bye.